Naftali Bennett, who joins us from Jerusalem. Aren't all consumers entitled to know the origin of the produce they buy?
You know, what the EU has done is singled out Israel specifically, because there's got to be 200 conflicts or disputes, land disputes around the world, and I don't see them singling out anyone else. Why, for example, are the settlements in northern Cyprus not labeled? Why aren't they labeled? That's occupied territory by Turkey.
Well, perhaps in the future they may be, but let's just address the precise issue now.
Perhaps, but that is the issue.
It's taken 3 years to get to this point now. Just answer my first question. Surely people are entitled to know precisely where they're buying the goods from.
And they're buying their goods from Israel. You know, Israel has been
they're buying some of these goods, aren't they, from occupied territories?
No, they're not occupied. They're disputed, as are hundreds of other locations around the globe. And when the EU, and of all places, Europe, singles out Israel, I see that as a new form of anti-Semitism. Instead of holding the single Jew to a new standard, a double standard, it's holding Israel, the only democracy, the only vibrant democracy in the Middle East, to a whole different standard. Show me another country in the Middle East.
Anti-Semitic?
Well, because if they were labeling out 20 other locations, such as Western Sahara or Northern Cyprus, then I could accept that they have a policy of every disputed territory, they're going to label it. But when it's only Israel, and there's no attempt to move on to anywhere else, that's a form of anti-Semitism. And you know what? It's a reward for terror, because I can tell you that the folks in ISIS, in Al-Qaeda, in Hezbollah, are having a field day today because they see that terror works. They're out killing people from the West, and they're getting their reward.
Mr. Bennett, isn't the problem here, though, that international law says these are occupied territories, the UN says these are occupied territories, the only country which doesn't think they're occupied is Israel?
You know, there is something that goes even before that. Israel has been in this land for roughly 3,400 years. We had a Jewish state 3,000 years ago, another one 2,000 years ago. So notwithstanding what the EU says, this is our land and we can't occupy your own land. That's impossible.
Do you deny the fact that international law stands against what you are saying now? I mean, you know, the international community accepts that these are occupied territories, and for consumers, it actually could be something productive in terms of the peace process, as this petition has been signed by several prominent Israelis in the last 24 hours, saying this might help people understand precisely where the peace process is and should move forward.
If anyone thinks that twisting Israel's arm into committing national suicide will somehow work, we're not going to do that. We've had boycotts since the 50s.
Nobody's suggesting that your arm is being twisted into some sort of suicide.
Well, that's precisely it, because if we found another failed Arab Muslim state in the heart of Israel, just 4 minutes away from where I'm talking to you right now, would become the potential Palestine, which would look like Syria or look like Iraq, that is potential suicide. Would you be willing to live next to a Muslim state 4 minutes from your home? Would you?
What are you going to do about this then?
Well, you know, we're going to continue to thrive. We're going to continue to be the only democracy in the Middle East. We have a Supreme Court justice who's Arab. We have members of Knesset who are Arab. We have a vibrant democracy that doesn't exist anywhere else. We're going to continue building ourselves. I'll tell you that in the UK, you guys have had a labeling policy since 2009, and you know what's happened to commerce? It's doubled from 1.1 billion euros to 2.2 euros since. Israel has a very powerful economy. You
have nothing to fear about this labeling policy then?
Look, when we see anti-Semitism, we call it out. We see this as a severe and morally wrong move that, in fact, beyond everything, is going to hurt, first and foremost, the Palestinians themselves, because roughly 200,000 Palestinian families make their living from creating goods that are then partially exported abroad. So if anything, the EU is going to hurt the Palestinians, which I think is a wrong move. These people need to make a living. Why would you want to hurt them? It is beyond my understanding. I think the EU should rethink this wrong policy, it's not going to work, and in fact, it's going to only boomerang and hurt the Palestinians themselves.
Okay, Naftali Bennett in Jerusalem, thank you very much indeed.